Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Mark from SolarGames, and today we're going to be doing the HVN lore episode 2, where we talk more lore things. And the way I'm kind of doing this episode, by the way, is like I'm just mostly doing like little lore tidbits based on cards from the set. So what you're getting essentially are just mini stories. They're not really like full on like the lore of the Sungwo world. Part of that is also because we just don't have enough articles released yet from the official Grand Archive like websites to understand how the Sungwo lore of the historical and the romanticized Sungwo meshes with the Grand Archive version of that story. So one thing I want to comment for today is I'm just going to comment on a couple cards that are kind of interesting to me, right? So we're going to talk about 3 Visits. I know you're going to say, Mark, but 3 Visits is not from this set. I agree. But in this set, the story of 3 Visits actually is extended in another card. So 3 Visits, as you remember from Mortal Ambition, was the card that's basically depicting the sisters, right? Liu Bei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, going and visiting Kongming and trying to convince Kongming to, basically join their army. And the reason why it's 3 visits because they had to go visit Kongming 3 times. And it was 3 times because it was, part of this whole idea of like reverence. 3 is a very powerful number in general in a lot of cultures and society, but also in Chinese society, 3 is a very sincere number. As in, like, usually, as an example, like when I was taught as a kid, if somebody's sincerely trying to give something to you, you should reject it 3 times. If you reject it 3 times and on the 3rd time they still say, hey, you should have this thing, then that means they really want you to have it, and then you can accept the gift, right? This is something that I don't know if it does slow everything down quite a bit to do this, but in general, if it's like a very expensive gift, this is something that you would do in Chinese culture, okay? So there's that. Of course, the whole flavor of the card, we kind of talked about it last season, but just really quickly, 3 visits, 0 cost, right? It's a wind element card, action, cleric, mage, skill. Class bonus, you may activate this card from your graveyard. If you do, banish it as it resolves. And then class bonus also, you may activate this card from your banishment. If you do, put it on the bottom of your deck as it resolves. Otherwise, the card basically what it does is rest your champion. If you do, glimpse 2, recover 2, right? And the whole idea of resting is like you're paying reverence, so you have to kuto, maybe you're like kneeling down type of thing, resting. And then, like glimpsing 2 because you're trying to see the future and see if like maybe Kongming is there. The whole idea is that the first 2 visits, for example, Kongming wasn't actually there. So you have to glimpse 2. This first and second time were just glimpses. The 3rd time Kongming actually was there, right? And of course, the whole idea is that the card can be activated 3 times. It goes into graveyard first, goes into banishment second, goes back in the deck 3rd, and that's when you can actually have Kongming, something like that. Okay, so the really cool part about HVN is that I was looking through kind of like the card lists, and I saw a card, and I thought, this card is really interesting because I think the artwork is depicting the moment of 3 visits. So if you look at like the card Kingdoms Divide, right? Really interesting. You'll notice also the 3 sisters are there. Liu Bei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei are in the picture along with Kongming, right? And Kongming is sitting in a specific position with a map unfurled in front of her, showing something to Liu Bei. Now, of course, Liu Bei is very in this like curious motion of like, trying to get understanding, trying to understand something, trying to learn something from Kongming. And Kongming is like using her fan, pointing out specific things to Liu Bei. Now, in the story of the Romance of the 3 Kingdoms, at this moment, this is right after Liu Bei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei were successfully able to go visit Kongming in Kongming's house, meaning they found Kongming and then they were actually able to go see Kongming. Now, what did they talk about? So the moment they met, Kongming basically said, hey, here's what I've been doing, and this is why I haven't met you for 3 times. Thank you for coming to visit me, but this is the reason why for the first, second time you didn't see me, because I've traveled all of China to draw a very important map. And this map is what I predict the future of how we can establish a kingdom for, you guys, for Shu. It's very interesting, right? So like basically Kongming's foresight and knowledge was so powerful that Kongming knew that Liu Bei would come and seek Kongming out. And when that day ever came, Kongming would have a map ready to go for Liu Bei to kind of go and move towards this plan. Again, in this section, in this moment in the story, Liu Bei is kind of a nobody. I mean, Liu Bei has a small army, but it's nowhere near the power of like Yuan Shao or Cao Cao, or even like the Sun Quan, the Sun Ce army, that side. They all have much bigger armies than Liu Bei. But what Liu Bei has is talented people like Kong Ming, like Guan Yu, like Zhang Fei, okay? Now, the reason why this card is around the time of the 3 visits is because you can notice Zhang Fei is kind of sitting very like disrespectfully, like, what the heck is this, right? And then Guan Yu is in this like, I don't trust Kong Ming, with her arms crossed type of stance, right? And this is because this is very early in the whole phase of meeting Kong Ming. And remember, these 2 other sisters were not as, I guess, respectful of this visit. They were thinking Kong Ming is looking down upon their elder sister, right? Liu Bei, and saying, oh, he doesn't even want to come visit us. He doesn't want to come and see us, right? And so they're like not sure. They're standoffish and they're kind of further. But you can see Liu Bei is very, very interested in hearing Kong Ming. And the reason for this is because Liu Bei was recommended by another strategist to go seek out Kong Ming. And Liu Bei knows that, while she has really strong warriors behind Guan Yu and Zhang Fei, she lacks a strategist. She lacks somebody who has foresight and knowledge to be able to kind of command the future of the strategy of what they want to do. So, and Kong Ming's map in this case is just basically laying out exactly how the kingdom will be divided among Cao Cao, Sun Quan, or Sun Ce at this point, and then Liu Bei. And you can see that those are the points on the map. If you look at closely on the picture there, you'll notice that there is a pin for every color of the element. So you'll see a red pin, a blue pin, and a green pin. So matching the color, of course, of Sanguo. It's really, really flavorful, actually. So that's the story of Kingdoms Divide. And it's basically the continuation or the conclusion of the 3-visit card that we had from last season. Very fun, right? Okay, for today's bonus card, I want to tell you the story about Zhao Yun and Rescue the Heir. So Zhao Yun, as you know, is a card from last season. If you remember, Zhao Yun is like very, very, it's Exia-based element character, a very cool looking character. But there's a mysterious kind of like, what's Zhao Yun all about? Now, for those of you that don't know, Zhao Yun actually works for Liu Bei as well. It's one of the 5 tiger generals under Liu Bei, okay? So Zhao Yun did, the reason why Zhao Yun is so famous in the story for, what Zhao Yun stands for is that Zhao Yun did something super impossible for Liu Bei way, 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 way early in the story. So again, Liu Bei, a lot of times, just like episode 1, is always running away from something, right? So Liu Bei vacated the city, and of course, one of the Liu Bei's like wives and her son, right? Liu Bei's son. Again, remember, in the story, the Romance Three Kingdoms story, Liu Bei is a guy, but of course, Grand Archive is a girl. So Liu Bei's son, okay, is trapped inside this village that's way behind enemy lines that has been pillaged and ransacked by the Cao Cao's army, okay? And so Zhao Yun says, hey, Liu Bei says, hey, my son is trapped behind enemy lines. Zhao Yun says, I will go rescue your, son. And so Zhao Yun rides, Zhao Yun's horse way back into enemy's line, finds the son, okay, and holds the son, and then rescues the son out. And on the way, of course, Zhao Yun fights Xia Houdun, which is Cao Cao's, one of Cao Cao's main generals, right? And you can see this is a very epic battle. And if you look closely, Zhao Yun's holding his spear with his right hand, but you can see he's holding something, a parcel, a package, if you will, with his left hand. This is actually the son of Liu Bei. So as he's running out, he's kind of defending this person. And this is also why the card reads like this. As long as you control a unique ally, this card costs 1 less to activate. Because if Zhao Yun is the person to rescue the heir, this is like much easier. Zhao Yun is very good at it. Zhao Yun was known for doing this. Return target ally you control to its owner's memory. So this will be the son that you're returning to the memory, right? You're protecting the memory. You're rescuing the heir of the Shu Empire. All right, so that's the episode for today. I hope you guys enjoy the lore video as much as I enjoy making them. This is Mark from SolarGames. I'll see you guys next time. Stay classy.